Hello, it's been a while. I know I haven't posted on here in a long time, but I want to officially welcome all of you to Season 2 of Chewy TV. Today, we'll be talking about cats. Well, specifically one cat, Garfield. Everybody knows Garfield and his hatred of the Mondays and love of lasagna. Since his introduction in 1978, Garfield has been featured on products ranging from Chia Pets to Pez dispensers, teapots, phones, toilet seat covers, and whatever the f*** this is. He was also featured in 2 terrible live-action movies that I had the displeasure of watching for this video. Let's get this over with.
Can you tell me why you decided to get into the lasagna again?
The early 2000s was filled with a bunch of weird live-action family movies that I'm sure I'll probably end up talking about on this channel at some point. Among them is 2004's Garfield the Movie, starring Bill Murray.
Do you have any regrets?
Garfield, maybe?
Before this video, I'd never actually seen this movie, and now I wish I never had. It was directed by Peter Hewitt, who has a interesting filmography, and was produced and distributed by 20th Century Fox. The film opens with a sweeping shot of some really poorly photoshopped pictures of John and Garfield, and a very 2000s song choice. Garfield decides to wake John up, and man, the CGI doesn't hold up. Like, it doesn't even look like he's interacting with the blankets, look at that. He just feels completely weightless. I don't know why they designed him like this. Like, the rest of the movie has real animals interacting with him, and it just makes him look so much worse in comparison. Anyway, the real conflict of the movie gets started once John brings Odie home from the vet. Naturally, Garfield grows jealous of John's attention to Odie and attempts to sabotage their relationship. So yeah, it's basically the plot of Toy Story. There's a really lame scene at a dog show where John and Liz are on a date, and Garfield ends up getting chased by a bunch of dogs. This leads to Odie taking center stage and winning the dog show just by kind of jumping and spinning around. After winning the dog show, this creepy guy comes up and gives John a business card saying he's interested in having Odie on his show. While I was rewatching this scene, I noticed the card doesn't even have his number on it or any way to contact him, which is just unintentionally hilarious. Like, how is he supposed to even reach him? It just says his name. Jumping ahead a little bit, Garfield makes it home before John from the dog show and accidentally creates this huge mess. When John walks in and sees it, Garfield's reaction is pure nightmare fuel.
The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
John ends up kicking him out of the house for the night, and Odie, being a good boy, comes outside to keep him company. Garfield ends up sneaking back inside and locks Odie out. While outside, Odie ends up running away, following a truck with dog treats, and is eventually taken in by an old lady. The next day, John goes looking for Odie, who ended up in the hands of the TV executive after he swindled the old lady. He immediately puts Odie to work on his show by forcing him to do his little dance using an electric shock collar. Garfield develops a guilty conscience and decides to try and help find Odie. With the help of some talking rats, Garfield makes it to the building where Odie is being held. He wiggles his way through some vents and eventually makes it to Odie. Some other random bullshit happens, and then Garfield shreds down a bunch of railings on a plate like he's in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater or something. And eventually winds up in the pound. With the help of some new friends from the pound, Garfield escapes and heads to a train station to try and stop the executive from taking Odie to New York City in order to produce a new show starring him. Garfield makes his way to the control center and starts messing with all the controls, setting the trains on a collision course. Luckily, this attempted act of domestic terrorism stops just short and the trains narrowly avoid colliding. Garfield's then able to locate Odie and confronts the TV executive with all the animal friends he made in his brief stint in the pound. They all collectively maul the executive, and everybody lives happily ever after. And then this happens.
I feel good. I knew that I would now.
And that's Garfield the Movie from 2004. Yeah, this was a tough watch. I was very bored throughout the whole runtime. A lot of cringe moments. I'm feeling an easy 1 out of 5 on this. All I can really say is that it pretty accurately portrays the Garfield characters, and it's only an hour and 20 minutes long.
Anyone who sings like that should be drug out into the street and shot.
Garfield, the movie, was quickly followed up in 2006 with Garfield, A Tale of Two Kitties. Bill Murray returned to voice Garfield, and this time the movie was directed by Tim Hill. The story is one of many adaptations of Mark Twain's novel The Prince and the Pauper, where a poor boy swaps lives with a young prince who looks exactly like him. The movie starts out with a storybook opening that feels straight out of Shrek. Again, we start with a terrible opening scene that introduces Prince the Cat, voiced by the legendary Tim Curry. We then jump to Garfield and John as John prepares to propose to Liz. Before he's able to propose, Liz explains that she has to fly to London to speak at some pet conference thing. There's this awful dance sequence with Garfield and a turkey that I almost fast forwarded through. It's painful. For some reason, John decides to fly to London to propose to Liz during her trip instead of just waiting like a week for her to get back. John takes Garfield and Odie to the kennel before departing on his impromptu trip to London. The usual antics ensue, and Garfield breaks out of the kennel with Odie in tow, and they both sneak into John's suitcase. We now get to the main conflict of the movie. Basically, Prince the Cat is set to inherit the castle. Yeah, seriously. And the nephew of the owner is jealous and attempts to get rid of him so that he'll be the sole inheritor and be able to build a resort and spa. There's also this subplot with the animals at the castle wrestling with who will become the next leader, but who cares about that? We then jump back to John in a hotel room, attempting to surprise Liz with his proposal when he's interrupted by Garfield and Odie. For some reason, they're both super calm and casual when they find out that they were both in his suitcase the whole time. Speaking of which, why the hell does he have nothing in his suitcase? Like, was he just planning on spending a couple hours in London to propose? I don't understand. But anyway, John and Liz decide to go visit a museum and instruct Garfield and Odie to stay in the room until they get back. Of course, they both ignore this and immediately break out, and there's this montage of them doing some random British stuff. As to be expected, Garfield gets nabbed by the butler of the castle after being mistaken for the prince. Who would have guessed that the prince would later be mistaken for Garfield and taken in by John? Garfield quickly starts to take advantage of his newfound royalty at the castle and begins making demands. Meanwhile, the supposed return of the prince alarms the evil nephew, and he decides to pick up a knife and finish the job. At the same time, John and Liz take Prince and Odie to a bar, and Prince apprehensively tries lasagna for the first time and ends up loving it. Back at the castle, Garfield shows the other animals how to make lasagna, and they also immediately love it. I mean, I like lasagna as much as the next guy, but is it really that good? I'm getting tired. Let's wrap this up. So Prince decides to go on a quest to get back to the castle and reclaim his crown. John finally realizes that Prince isn't Garfield and that the two somehow got switched at some point, and he heads to the castle to get Garfield back, setting up the climactic finale. Big surprise, everybody shows up at the castle in time to save Garfield from the evil nephew and present the estate from being turned into a resort and spa. John proposes to Liz, and the animals have a dance party. The end. Honestly, I think this movie is marginally better than the first movie. You can tell there's a little bit bigger budget with some more elaborate sets and locations. The story is super generic and there are too many cringe moments to count, but it's more watchable than the first. For these reasons, I'm feeling a 1.5 out of 5. While Garfield, A Tale of Two Kitties was the last live-action adaptation, several other Garfield movies followed. In 2007, there was Garfield Gets Real, followed by a string of animated straight-to-DVD movies. There was also The Garfield Show that aired for 5 seasons on Cartoon Network starting in 2009. I actually vaguely remember watching a few episodes growing up, but I don't recall if I liked them or not. Most recently, there was the Garfield movie starring Chris Pratt that was released in 2024. I literally have no interest in watching any of them, so I skipped them for this video. Garfield's massive popularity and recognizability makes it prime for adaptations, and I feel like maybe if they went in a different direction, like making it more adult or something, they can make something worth watching. But as long as they keep churning out these family-friendly, unoriginal Garfield movies, I won't be checking them out. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the new style and look forward to seeing more. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and as always, see you next time.